I would like to start at a very important place.
Okay.
The extent to which you want to talk about it is up to you. Lepidoptery.
I would love to talk about that. So, Gene Stratton Porter, that name I haven't brought up in quite a while, but there was a book when I was younger that I read called A Girl of the Limberlost, and it was about being in nature and being in the wild. And the word throughout my whole life, Matthew, that has come up again and again for me is freedom. And this girl, she liked learning, but she was more into, just getting out in the forest and feeling freedom and exploring. And she loved moths and butterflies and all kinds of creatures that had these, for me, it's part about the transformation and part about this whimsy in the midst of things being kind of heavy, and the color and play, and this idea of, at any moment when you're kind of on a path that's very linear and straight, you can be like, oh, what's happening in the corner? Like away from where I'm looking, there's something else that wants to come up and land. And so at times I push against it because it can be seen as, light and feminine and maybe a little bit too, I don't know. I feel like I'm working in the age of like, let's treat well-being seriously, mind you. And yet, again and again, I find myself just kind of transfixed by Lepidoptery, butterflies, insects, creatures that have different patterns and frankly, just beautiful designs. Yeah. So, how about you? I'm also an Art Nouveau person. If you ask me about my favorite time period, I really like Art Nouveau in terms of art and genre. Yeah.
Who's your favorite artiste? Because for that time period, I think you're supposed to pronounce it artiste, but
I lived in Brussels for 2 years, and Victor Horta has a lot of beautiful architecture that's in Brussels. So I used to sometimes walk around and just look for buildings that he had designed because I really love wrought iron staircases and balconies and things that have this beautiful nature within the art that, it's explicit, but it's also kind of like a secret code. In terms of architects, Horta was really wonderful. Mucha in Prague, of course, is like a beautiful artist turning hair into swirls. And, even though I'm a non-smoker and, but he can make the wisps of smoke look really seductive and beautiful. So, some of my artists, I like a lot of different artists though. How about you?
Yeah, there's definitely some artists that have captured my attention over the years. I tend to really be drawn to the art of the people that I know. So like the art behind me is people I know. And I tend to want to hold on to that kind of stuff where like, just as random example,
Yeah.
going to see a Rothko in real life is an enjoyable experience, but I think I want that connection to the other person, not in a parasocial way, but in a social way. And so, I met with somebody who's a fellow UX research person, and she went to school for painting. And I found this out recently, and I was like, let's see that painting. Because I really just like that artistic expression, and seeing that side of people, and getting to know that side of people and celebrating that through, in the case of the ones behind me, buying it or, telling people about it or whatever. So it's, for me, the stuff that really, art-wise, that really draws me in is when I have that connection with a person. Certainly have the appreciation for certain art, and sometimes I've been obsessed is not is too heavy of a word, but obsessed with certain eras of art. particularly, 1900s to 1930s.
Yeah.
Expatriate France.
Same.
In both writing and photography, and so I've had those deep dive moments in the past, but lately it's been more about getting to know the artist of the people who I know.
And do you think, I mean, separate questions, you're surrounded, it looks very peaceful. It looks like sort of a cave with the dark walls. And um, I feel in my life as a creative, and I would self-identify as an artist myself. I walk the line. I have really colorful surroundings, and I'm wondering if for mind focus, if you find like you need to surround yourself with kind of a serenity, pure slate, and the art that you encounter is more in the do you need to keep your thoughts focused that the area around you is very clear from art that could be then seen as clutter or distraction? Because people often ask me, well, how do I focus better? And I'm thinking art is conducive to that. So I guess that would be the question one. And question two is, do the things you hold dearly, do you ever look behind you and see new things in the same paintings? Or have they become like, oh yeah, I know that painting, and you just sort of, it becomes part of your environment so much that you don't consider it from a new angle?
In reverse order to answer that, I would say it goes in waves where it sorry, James and Sam, where it just becomes part of the wall. And then other times where I'll sit and look at it, or get up close and look at it. Both of these pieces are pretty textured. So seeing them up close, and and this light doesn't really do them justice, but so yeah, it'll go in waves where it's just background, and then sometimes I'll just swivel my chair around and sit and look at it, or get up close. I think as far as the layout or the setup of the space for focus, for me, it's about getting some level of comfort and safety in a space where I feel like I have the opportunity to be creative or be focused. So for me, because of the people I live with, who are chaos engines.
They're very quiet right now, though.
Yeah. Because I said, I'm recording. Don't make any fucking noise, okay? Hi, sweetie. Anyway.
Hello.
But for me, I need my space to be, as much as possible, everything's put away except for the thing that I'm working on. And when I'm done working on that thing, I put it away and bring out the next thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out that way, but that's really the way that I tend to function best. So even when I'm working on this, like I've got a 38-inch monitor, and when it's time to work, I'll have this small little window and this big thing with a black background. So it's like being able to focus and have that level of, reduced opportunity for, what? Oh, look at that.
Yeah. The literal butterflies coming past. I love the book Moby Dick. I was someone who actually read the whole thing in high school when it was assigned, and all these people were like, I got away with, reading the notes. And I was like, but it's a beautiful book. And I was thinking about clearing space in life and design, not just a binary of saying no to things, because I think sometimes people say we need to learn to say no, but that emptiness for me is very healing. Like in my day when I have, I consider it sort of like the color black, like the space that anything can drop into. And I always found it interesting that Kubrick, Melville, a lot of people who are artists would say that the scariest color is white. Like actually white would be, I guess that's why Melville chose like the white whale, because it's so piercing. It's like a scream. And there are certain films where Kubrick would choose to fade to white instead of black. And so I think it's because it kind of charges our senses. And so even though I love colors all around me, sometimes when I really want to relax, I will go into darkness or think about darkness or identify with the clear space as a black page, not a blank white page, because I'm very sensory about the way I approach things with my physical body and how I want to show up to give myself the best conditions. So I guess that's my feeling of consonance with what you're sharing. And I would also like to point out Howard Rheingold is a friend and mentor of mine, and he um, is pretty well known in the origins of the web. He was working in the 1980s and wrote a book about virtual reality, and has also written about collaborative communities, like how we had. He was part of the original how the internet was first conceived as a place of collaboration and trust. And now he's retired. He's a painter. He just does a lot in his studio space with transmedia art. And I saw a piece just like this and fell in love with it. He's a friend of mine, and I just I basically just said to him, "Wow, that piece, it seems to speak to me and of me. Like I see myself in that piece of art." And then he said, well, it's based on the Fibonacci sequence and it's a spiral, but it's got the bio of nature in it. And he was telling me more about the story of the background. Um, and then I just said, well, if you ever choose to sell it, and he's because I was just saying, I feel so much affinity that I would want that like really in my life. And then Howard, he said, for you, it was sort of a both and, where he said, I've been working on paintings on the weekends. He started making this painting for me then because it was already part of his space, the one that he had, but he made a sister painting for me and then said to me, I had to go out and get the canvas because he had moved on to different medium. Like he wasn't using the oil paints anymore or the combination of acrylics. So he was saying to me it was both a design challenge, artist challenge. And then of course I told him, no, well then don't do it. But he's like, no, I can tell you really appreciate this. So I don't always tell people the backstory and even like the lime green of what he thinks is sort of like the veins of the creature that is the bioplant. But I think I put it there because it reminds me symbolically of some of what I stand for. And it's ironic in this day and age. It's not like our office where we never see what's behind us. It feels like a little wink at what is me.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously correct me if I'm going down the wrong path, but it's a way to share with others what's important to you and and in fact, I mean, technically it's still there, but there's a mural underneath that. Technically it's green paint, not black, that is of Bruce Lee and his be water my friend quote, and my desk used to face that way, and it was painted at a time where I was in a really rough working space, very stressful and very let's go fast and not deliver anything. And so I had that up for me for a while, and then I faced my desk this way, and it was about the time when that was not so stressful anymore, and so it kind of became more for the people who I was meeting with. Like, nice. And every once in a while, I would lean to one side and just make sure the word bubble there was visible. And
hey, friend, like, look at that.
Just subtle reminder. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mostly a space for me.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a space for the people that I meet with in this medium, but yeah, I think for me, I've put a lot of intentionality on the space as much as I can anyway, to be someplace that I'm comfortable being, where I have the opportunity to really focus when I'm able to focus and get the things done that I want to get done.
Yeah.
It didn't work out so well last year, but because in 2022, I gave this goal to myself to publish 2 things a year for 10 years. And I did okay for the first 3 years. And then last year, I worked on too many things at the same time. So many things moved forward, many projects moved forward, but nothing got done. And so I'm really trying to get that back in line this year. So
and I'm
trying to be a little bit more ruthless.
Yeah. And for you and for people listening who, I think that's a very outcome driven goal. And that's awesome to say. And I don't mean just like cool, awesome. I mean like a listening awe to be like, I want 2 things because publishing is a big deal. Would it be part of that umbrella if they're collaborative and if other people,
Yeah.
or is it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So it's not just you saying, I want to have my solo authored book or my production of a game or my, yeah. Okay. Because with UX and with design, you can be part of in a lot of different ways.
I think my preference is to be collaborative because, one thing that I could do on this channel is do talk to camera pieces, right?
Right.
Although these days all the kids seem to be talking to their viewfinder instead of talking to the lens, but whatever. Millennials, Gens, I don't know, whatever they are these days, kids, right? The kids, TM.
Yeah.
But I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy talking to be recorded. I enjoy talking to people and interacting with them. So that's why I do this format as opposed to video essays or whatever, right? And the same goes with my writing. Like I've got, 3 of my books have been co-created with artists, and I've got a couple of other projects that I'm working on that are going to be co-creations with people. And I've got, some that are my own. And I've got some projects that will happen someday that I need other people to help me with.
Yeah.
Because I do not want to become a game developer.
And it's hard to think of a calendar year and being that prolific with planting seeds and seeing which things can take off. Yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just this morning, I was thinking about my and working title, and I'm half tempted to leave it as title is my big book of UX, which is just a collection of both like how to do research and essays on the more philosophical side of UX that I've done over the years and collecting all that into a single book. And that is not on my list of things to do this year, but my brain was like, So that's again why I have to like focus myself, because I want to work on the thing that's shiny in the moment and not lately, not work on the thing that is 90% done. So
yeah, and maybe that would slingshot the other thing by letting you have more energy to get to that. You never know. I hadn't originally intended to go to GDC, the Game Developer Conference, and then it happened 2 weeks ago, so it just wrapped up. And way led unto way, I was in town because I'm here in the Bay Area, and different friends were giving talks, and I ended up joining and having a pass at the last minute. And I felt like things were coming together where I was playing the role of a researcher, which I find myself going into quite often because I'm also a writer, and the research was leading me toward embodiment. And I feel as if I feel as if I'm kind of pregnant with ideas that could become a book. It's not that I want to time box it, Matthew, but I feel like I know what that can be when it becomes your sole purpose. And I'm like, no, right now it can't be my sole endeavor. but my book Digital Wellbeing came out a year and a half ago, and I find myself just naturally at this event. There were things that were projection domes of the Sky video game experience, but done in a way where physical humans were meditating in a room and given a chance to have a sensory sound bath and be together. And I just thought, wow, it feels like, to me, it's almost not a political statement, but sort of like if I'm writing something about the layer stack of the physical body and how we have a UX consideration for our physical well-being and not in denial of the digital formats. Like, it's not working against it. It's just this intentional layering. I've been thinking about this for a few months. And then when I was showing up there, I thought, I'm not trying to look for this, but I was seeing it come up all the time with people saying in their designs, it's less about like treating wellness or having an explicit wellness experience, but it felt like more of what I was seeing was that the game design intentions had grown beyond these kind of extractive algorithms that lead people to feeling depleted. And I'm wondering if that's because the industry is sort of slightly shifting right now, or things are happening in gaming that are looking more expansively about the design. And I don't have I'm still in that after of, let's muse on that. But I know what it's like to feel like you have a project that could come out in a publication this year, and I'm feeling that buzz energy like you, if I can stay focused on it and not have it be the solo thing, because it doesn't want to be the solo thing. I know that.
Yeah. Do you, two questions based on what you just said. Okay. One is, where's the overlap, if there is any, with the development studios as far as their size versus the exploration of non-extractive experiences? If that is a poorly worded question. I had the closed version of the question. I was trying not to ask the closed version of the question. But basically, like, is there a can you rely on a AAA studio coming to the table with a non-extractive experience versus the landscape is now a bit more open? The bar to entry is a little lower for smaller studios to get in, and they're the ones who are bringing that to the fore.
It's a great question. I'm looking for
poorly worded, but no, I think that there's something.
I'm looking around for a serious hat, because I'm like, oh well, there's the nature lover.
I should have got the hat.
I know, seriously, because I feel like I want to give this question two different answers based on am I the budget person?
Right.
Well, okay. Yeah. So I think a few things to mention for context. Not that we need to hold up this book, but I write about culture a lot, and there's a whole culture in digital well-being that's about each of these chapters are like beads on a necklace. It can be read in any order, but I'm thinking a lot about like medicinal media, and not in a way like you're broken and you need to be fixed, but if media has been what we consume, it kind of becomes part of us. And I grew up playing a lot of games, and then part of my approaches to well-being is, and I'm giving you kind of the semi-long answer because I think there's a longer play here that is more about a proposition for what the future of experience could be. Because if everything's kind of conditions that could have a gamified approach, then we're either kind of draining our energy resources or having it be additive. So sometimes when people ask me, well, give me 7 steps to better well-being, because I teach about digital well-being, I'll tell them it's not that easy, because I look at it as a dynamic construct. Like, what are your life values? And I know it takes a little longer to get to the end, but it's like there are different types of practices, and people are getting to learn. By the way, side note, I love our mutual friend Jessica, and Jessica Outlaw and I can talk about this a lot with like somatic practices for the physical body, and then also you know, how people are experiencing life in a moment by moment is something to get in touch with. And the more people are used to, oh, I get to be the authority on my own well-being, I'm not just following a robotic cookie cutter, then they start to feel a better sense of agency, and then they're more in a state of being able to attend to their intention, matching their attention practices. So all of this could be used in game design to have things be less extractive and more energy begetting, and less short-term malicious, like loot boxing and all the things that work really well for gambling. But long term, you want someone to fall in love with a game and find more about themselves through the process. So to answer you, I think that some trends I notice happening are studios and places that have had really extractive processes are being exposed more often. Like, people are less naive about it, and younger generations are like, I don't even want to give my time to this. I'm going to get out of this. But they still want a community. Like, they still want to have some kind of connection. Even if it's a single player game, there's like that ethos of people sharing that they had that experience together. Mm-hmm. So it can become a form of culture. And my background is not in marketing and making something go viral. I'm more about, well, what is intrinsically motivating? And I'm the person that wants a game with no time limit. I want to hang out in the space and feel it. I loved Zelda growing up, and games that have a map that I can explore. So yeah, so my longer answer is that still it's not necessarily in a great, we could be in a time when, especially in the immersive space, there's less funding. And so people, I can see that bridge where, okay, that means more creatives are coming together for hackathons, and they're having these low budget builds that take off and build movements. What I do notice is that people are talking more about mental health and well-being, and talking more about, why is it that in our country, in the United States, there's one of the higher rates of suicide in global stats. And this is an area of passion for me. I'm working to help that and bring more belonging to what I create, and have people find themselves in a way where they're not sent a message that they're broken, needing to be fixed, but more a message like, you're enough, and let's explore, and let's bring out some of the wonder and awe that could be in those spaces between the notes once we create these opportunities. And they could be shared experiences, or they could be a world where there are little kind of glimmers to discover, and they surprise people. So I'm an experienced designer with that mission underneath it, also to really heal the loneliness epidemic and prevent suicide as much as possible. And, I'm doing this in a non-clinical way. And I get to be in spaces where sometimes people are not necessarily going at it from that angle, but they're like, oh, and that's interesting. I align with those values, and now I'm making it more explicit in my designs. So I actually met a lot of people working on game design that had that as part of what they value. And I find it really wonderful that it's not that it's destigmatized. It's just that people are talking about it more, and talking about, because I think we're already past the point where hopefully talking about mental health is destigmatized. I just think sometimes unwittingly people silo those builds into, oh, this is a medical application. And it's like, no, this should be like a basic human value underneath everything. And if you build for that, then you don't sacrifice it or view it as like icing on the cake. Yeah. So that's I guess I'm wearing both hats. I'm trying to wear both hats and have games and creations that can be wildly successful, and also not deny those principles.
Yeah, I have a tendency to I know there's a term for this, I can't think of it right now, but I'll say it's me also. that where I conversationally try to identify or show that I'm listening by telling something of my experience with and building off of that. So, and sometimes I get in my head about that.
As a human, I'm
speaking of mental
copacetic.
health.
I view that as additive. Like I like part of this conversation for me is two-way, and I like I like your stories. I also appreciate how thoughtful you are with attending to this moment and not on to the next. You know, this is a organic unfolding conversation.
Right. And now a word from our sponsor. No, I'm kidding.
Have you tried 8 Sleep?
There you go.
Are we on Huberman? No.
Yeah. The one random thought I had was maybe Microsoft should, in order to start using Excel, you have to spend a minute doing a meditation. But that's
speed bump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game, or one of the top video game idea that I have is, it's about a turtle, and the turtle is going on a journey, and you can speed the turtle along by tickling it. So it's meant for the phone or the small screen.
Yeah.
And you can only play it for 30 seconds a day. But there's a story. Mm-hmm. So it's more of an interactive narrative than a game. And my intention with it is to have it be very cute, because I like cute things. And but to have it be an exploration of what one does with what one can do, not should do, with processing grief and following through on promises to people who will never see the outcome of your follow through.
Wow.
So it's one, I would love to have me and the people who help build it get paid, but I would never want it to be, spend $10 and be able to make the turtle go faster. No, none of that crap. But again, I don't have a gigantic studio of 2,000 developers that I have to keep employed. Even though that's a choice, but whatever.
I have a question, but when the description is complete, with the turtle, are you above it and you're watching it move? What tells you the message?
This is the thing. As many video games as I've played in my life, I sort of don't feel like I have the full language of it, but side-scrolling is the current concept. And, just spoiler, after the first couple of days, the turtle is annoyed that you're tickling it. And then
wouldn't be.
Right.
I'd be annoyed.
But then it'll be, it doesn't have to be like this, but the current working concept is, words will be on the screen, and certain things will start to come in that the turtle has to deal with, that will start to tell that story of where is the turtle going, because it's going on a journey. So I'm in the process of writing it, and so we'll see.
And it symbolizes grief in a certain sense, the grief story?
It's a grief story that the turtle is dealing with something, and the idea is that you're there to both help the turtle, but also you can be the turtle. Not literally, but people can empathize. So so I haven't figured out the end yet, but I've got a good idea of the structure. And I very specifically want it to be, don't play this game all in one sitting.
Yeah.
Have a timer. You can't play it more than, 30 seconds, a minute at a time. And it'll depend on where they are, and it'll have to be structured by day. And, it could be that there's a segment that needs to be 2 minutes long that just works that way. But
Well, I like this
commercial success. No. It's like, I can only play the game 30 seconds a day. Then again, Hank Green got Focus Friend to the #1 app spot, but also there's a whole machine of DFTBA behind that. So,
I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot there with simplicity, and also with this idea of a friction, a reflection. Yeah, and I think turtle, it's like the creature that goes slowly, but also, so much more in myth and legend. And yeah, for my father passed away unexpectedly 3 years ago, and he was a very meaningful part of my life. And this idea of grief being transformative was really true for me. And there are many other sub stories I could tell, but he's showed up in dreams, which I find humorous. He's showed up as a turtle. Like, he has showed up multiple times, and I don't have dreams about turtles. So that's funny, because it's been sort of surfacing and having this underwater dream state. And in all of the dreams, the message is just basically, I'm fine. And, more of a condition of peace. And I don't live near turtles. I didn't have a background relationship with that kind of creature in my life, but I have been going places and now just noticing turtles, whether it's in Central Park and seeing, there are ponds there where turtles just seem to surface, and you look for things and then you start to see them. But there are all kinds of stories about the world being built on a turtle's back, or different pieces, turtles all the way down. It's just, to me, Matthew, it's kind of like a subtle wink where I'm like, oh yeah, grief and turtles. And that seems to me totally appropriate, that there's a tickle to move faster. And also, it's a subtle creature. It's not taking up a lot of space. It's not, and something about the wisdom of them, that they can live for so long. I find that also very interesting. And some things in my life are mysteries, and I'm very happy having that sense that I don't have to answer all of those why questions, as much as just accept that that's a message of peace and of grief being transformational and nonlinear. Yeah.
And very nonlinear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though technically this game will be linear from left to right, but
it will be in a line.
The journey is nonlinear.
Yeah. The journey is definitely nonlinear. Yeah. We get to show up as humans and either fight it or try to go with the flow.
The other question that came up, so do you spend a lot of time in the game space?
I spend a lot of time in the play space. I spend a lot of time sometimes giving talks, sometimes writing media, working with people as an advisor. Explicitly, I do create games, and I'm in the game space, but I would say I'm a multifaceted. I have my own company, and sometimes I design experiences or workshops, and I'm with a corporate audience, and they would never identify, oh, Caitlin's in the game space, but I'm actually building a playful experience for them that upends some of what their practices have been. And I think I've always had that creative, open mindset to bring to that.
Yeah, I had a moment, a flash of FOMO of wanting to go to something like that. But I think that one of the things that came to mind was the extent to which other industries or other disciplines can be inspiring or informative to the things that you're creating, and how the extent to which you seek those out. So like for me, because I'm not really big in the game space, going to a gaming convention or developers convention. What was it again? Which one was it?
GDC, Game
GDC.
Developers Conference. Yeah.
Yeah. Conference. And one of my favorite quotes, blanking on the name of the person who said it, I'll put it on the screen, is a way of seeing is also a way of not seeing. Mm. And so, I first heard that probably 1990, something like that. So that's been with me for quite a while. And it's one of the things that has, I feel like I don't seek it out as often as I used to, but one of the things I've done in the past and do sometimes still is put myself in places that normally I wouldn't go, just to see how other people see how they create things, and how they bring interesting things into the world, just to say it relatively generically. It's the person who introduced me to that quote was one of my professors, and we did a poetry class. And as part of the poetry class, we went to visit a brewer and a blacksmith and some third thing. That was 35 years ago. Don't quiz me on this.
I love that. Yeah.
To really say, how do you take something that is atoms and turn it into something that has meaning for somebody? Mm-hmm. What's your process for this? And really going there to observe, to put your researcher hat on. Again, no hats in vicinity. And be a lowercase a anthropologist for a day or two.
Yeah.
And then see how that changes you, whether it reinforces your perspective on something or upends it to such an extent that it then turns around and informs your choices going forward. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I'm going with this, but which is most of my conversations.
Well, I'm picking it up. I mean, I feel like it's that idea of curiosity and adaptation, and I don't it's not like I'm pinning down this is creativity, but I find a lot of my own background that people don't always know is that my parents were in the foreign service and we were always moving and I was always adapting. So sometimes I can go to GDC and I can speak that language because I've been a programmer. And, I went back for an MFA in poetry because I like the sound of poetry out loud, and I like the physicality of it, the breath in your body, and, in a completely analog way. I've brought it into some of designs in VR, but I guess when I go into different worlds, sometimes I find I'm very curious. I can be that lowercase a anthropologist or speak that language. And oftentimes when I overcome any of my own intimidation or fear, or feeling like I need to impress anybody, if it's just more about a learning without being so didactic about it, but how do we enter those places with like no sense of ego? And I find I wish that more people could give themselves permission, because they'll tell me, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'm kind of like, what's in your way? And sometimes it's time or energy or being able to do that. But if it's not an obstruction, the more I do that, the more I kind of tuck away those ideas. And then when I'm in a completely different field, that's in my back pocket. And it feels so appropriate in the creative moment that I'm like, oh, I didn't know I would need this. And yet, back to that darkness, my curious creative animal has to know when to say when, and sometimes say, this event is not additive. I actually need some time between just to sit down at my desk and get the stuff done, because I can convince myself, Matthew, that I'm like collecting all the grab bag to use in some application later. And you see me lighting up. I'm laughing at myself because for the long game, which I'm often thinking about, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not just a short-term proposition. I want to serve in a role of a designer, like, for my life. And so treat it lightly, but sometimes I have to create the conditions of yeah. It can only be additive when you have the attention span to take it in. If you already feel overwhelmed and then you show up to GDC, which has 20,000 people and they're all in this like blah, 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 like hub, then I could see it being a non-additive proposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly why I don't go to South by anymore. It's like, no,
Yeah.
too big,
Yeah,
too crazy.
the middle size could be really good because then you form your cohort and you get these like deeper conversations and you can actually appreciate it and take some things home. Which actually brings me to Oregon. I really wanted to ask you, and I know these are non sequiturs, but you are located
Those
in
are
Oregon.
the best kind of sequiturs.
Yay. Are you located in Oregon?
In Portland, yeah.
Okay. It would have been really awkward if you said no. Like, no, Caitlin, I'm in Vancouver.
I guess I could have said physically, spiritually. Like, what are we talking here?
Physically, spiritually. I'm a newcomer where I came to Oregon. I've been teaching at the University of Oregon, digital well-being course, and loving it, and loving the people. It was a remote class, and then I got to physically go to Oregon, spend time in a workshop with a friend in Bend where we're planning to deliver something together, and we had our own kind of, it's both a meeting and we went out into the wilds and just experienced a lot in Oregon. I love it. So I'm just wondering what brought you there? What do you have to say? I'm physically living south of you in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I grew up in Boston. Like, Boston was my hometown, so I'm more East Coast in origin, although with the Foreign Service we did move around. But I felt like I was discovering something completely new, and I was thinking about Ursula K. Le Guin and some of the writing she's done about Oregon, and I really did fall in love. So what do you appreciate about it? And I'm probably coming back in May, and I felt like it was a cultural mix of all kinds of inspirations, but also this ability to have, I don't know, slowing down a little bit. Felt like there's something there that I was feeling, but I couldn't tell if I was applying it as an outsider. Like, if I was looking for that and then saw it.
I mean, the real answer is maybe. Maybe you were seeing that as an outsider. I don't think so. So I have this current, I lived here in 91 to 92 for about a year. And then this time I've been here since 2012. So coming up on 14 years. So yeah, very, very quickly. Alaska, born in Alaska.
Okay.
Moved to Oregon, went back to Alaska, back to Oregon, to Illinois, Massachusetts, Framingham. Hey.
Yeah, that's near my hometown.
Yeah. And then I would drive 20 miles in on I-90 to go to work in Cambridge. Terrible. At least once a week, someone would almost drive me off the road because they're like, I want to be in that lane.
Apologies on behalf.
No, it's the mass hole thing, right? But just, I guess I'll just generically say, lifestyle wise, I'm not an East Coast person. Too many people. And I think Massachusetts and New England in particular, there's still very much oh, you weren't born here? You're not part of here. You didn't go back generations? You stay over there. Sometimes literally. But that's one of those in my experience things, not a blanket statement.
Right.
So moving back, there really isn't anywhere in the United States that I'd want to live right now other than Portland and Oregon. I've never had much of an affinity with California and not so much with Washington. but we're definitely West Coast people. And I think the pace here, because it's a little bit slower, and the weather is a bit more amenable, even though we're supposed to tell people it rains here all the time, so they don't come. I mean, what? No, it rains all the time. It rains all the time. It's gray, terrible. But it's just been the best fit.
Yeah.
That said, there are other places on this planet that I would rather be, but can't live there legally for long periods of time easily. So, it's the best of what's available, and setting aside for a moment Oregon's terrible past, I think that there is a lot about Portland. I can mostly just speak about Portland, a little bit about Eugene, that is really welcoming of new and different. What prompts the question? Are you thinking of?
Oh, there's so much. There's a partly because of I'm thinking about awe and wonder, which to me are different than there are different facets of awe, but I sense that this is deeper than being in nature. I'm interested in places and well, that ability to belong, that you bring up. I think culturally we all, I sense the more moving around I do that groups. Let's put it this way. Let's back up. I worked internationally as an educator and taught in international schools. Had a pivot from programming to doing education design and working on interdisciplinary curriculum. So that brought me to Brussels for 2 years and Switzerland for 3 years before I started my own company, and then still lived in Switzerland in that culture. And I'm not entirely a transparent eyeball. Like I show up places and I integrate and get curious and, join local groups and functions. But I often also do that disappearing into experience and trying to, surrender judgment. And now it feels like places and spaces are a combination of humans and culture, yes, but also something in the land or in the surroundings that's sort of nudging, like, notice this, have you seen this? And so when I was witnessing the surroundings in Oregon, I thought, well, this is a place of nature and beauty and awe, and also seems as if it's invited an eclectic mix of people that, I'm not painting a perfect picture, but I just thought, oh, this is a place that's very conducive to creativity and to art coming out. And I'm often thinking, after a number of different experiences, where would be these places in the world where we can show up and feel a minimal amount of friction as designers doing what we do. And I guess that's the best way I can summarize it, because I hadn't even thought. I'm just in the stream of expressing this. Yeah, and it's in a way where I've been thinking about also sometimes travel can be lovely, and it can also be sort of like being in La La Land and not really being in the world of the local environment. So when I go places, I try not to go, like, just to go to a few places and spend a longer time there so that you really get to know communities, and you're also not just jetting around wasting fuel. Because I'm just thinking about the future of the planet and how I don't think people were really tourists in Western culture until pretty recently. In fact, I don't know if this is true, so it needs research, but I heard that the name tourist was a French word that developed from touriste, like tour, like people going to the Tour region in France, which could be completely false. But it makes for a good story that people suddenly had this this kind of surplus, and they were like, "Oh, what should I do with myself? Let me just take a little satchel and go on the road." And anyway, from a design standpoint, our body is predictive, and we predict having a good time, and we often live into that prediction of having a good time because we kind of preempt ourselves. And so I'm really thinking about what are best practices for the future for people who, like me, we're often in community. I'm very into the idea that I'm not in a nuclear divided family unit that needs like my own separation. And I don't know, I don't have a better way to explain that right now, but it's just sort of a mindset where, um, yeah, I'm really thinking about well-being and the future of societies that are more co-present and, don't drive like your kids live here, drive like everybody's your child. Like that's what I'm hoping for in terms of maybe we're in um, a pain point of actually pointing toward where places and spaces where people can hopefully not fall into those blobs of being false in terms of relational trust. And I understand sometimes that's culture because I've been to a lot of different places. Sometimes people grow up in that and they're like saying one thing when they mean another, um, and yet I guess my internal um, mindset has always been, well, keep myself safe, but stay as open as I can be. And I'm going to choose to trust in the goodness because I think we need more people who are willing to be open and show themselves. And yeah, who knows? It's always been my condition to kind of go more than 50% in showing myself and my vulnerability without sacrificing my integrity. Yeah.
Agreed.
Got pretty serious there, but that's what
Yeah,
wanted to come out.
when my kid was a little one and they would go out into the world to go play or go see friends or whatever, every time I would say, have fun, stay safe.
Yep.
In that order.
Yep. That's it, right? That's me.
It's, yeah, it's not, I think, don't think about that statement too much because then you're like, okay, so you're saying give up my safety to go have fun? I'm like, yeah, a little.
Well,
Don't
it's
be
like
an idiot, but
be
take a chance.
be critical, don't be cynical.
And
Like I'm really thinking about, okay, I can be a
that's what
skeptic.
I should have been doing this whole time. Where were you 30 years ago when I chose cynicism? Oh,
I mean,
geez,
I'm leaving space for doubt. I will describe myself as a skeptic. I'm writing a whole piece about the benefits of doubt, the benefits of holding space, but not being cynical. I teach at the college level, and some of the students will say that they have a FODA. They have fear of dating again and fear of doing anything because they kind of feel like they want to be surrounded by pillows, but then when we start, it's very cool to be cynical. It's also, we're in that culture, but the skeptics are a little bit different, and I think there could be a crossover, but like the playful skeptic, the loving, the emotionally supple. I feel like, yeah, we don't want to become mind numb and lemmings, and yet cynicism, I think, I I want to be I choose to be optimistic. I've recently been reading Viktor Frankl again, Man's Search for Meaning, which is one of my go-tos. I just think this idea of both healing and also um, like this true empowerment that's not in denial of something that is really hard that people go through. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, back to a point you made earlier, it can't be summarized in 7 steps to your best life ever because it's so highly dependent on maybe the person needs to be surrounded by pillows right now.
True.
And hopefully, and maybe they're throw pillows and not body pillows. Hey, that's a step forward, or it's a step in a direction, not a step forward.
I've never heard that before, as if like I want to tuck that away because that's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I better write that down. Oh, wait, I
Throw
just recorded
pillows,
it. It's
not
fine.
body pillows.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes the things I want to say are like, to your point, on travel, and I'm sure that no one else in the world but you and I have ever said anything remotely like this about travel. But, going to another place and seeing how differently people live and how, oh gosh, it isn't actually that different. Mm-hmm. I think is one of that and often excellent food is often one of the benefits of going and seeing how other people live. And I'm not that I can control this level, though I want to sometimes, that everybody should travel. The system within which we live should be supportive enough and allow for us to go to different countries and experience, to at least for a moment, what it's like to live there. Mm-hmm. To better understand when you go home how, well, I'm sure you can understand many things from that, but what I'm thinking in terms of is how not unique you are in the best way possible. Yeah. Because I know a lot of people really value being unique and standing out and being different from everybody. Why you, sorry. Maybe I'm that way. But I put a lot of value on that. I have put a lot of value on that in my life, and I don't think I should have put so much value on that, because it has kept me from making connections or making better connections with people. And I think it's the cynicism part, right? Cynicism largely being a defense mechanism for uncertainty, and but again, like, yay, skepticism too. So
it's
how's that for thought vomit right there? I apologize. It was all over the place.
I love it because I feel like the things I've learned, moving to places, is this humility, and you're always upended. I mean, talk about design. You have to either adopt a mindset of, this is not the way I'm used to, this bothers me, or that's interesting, even if it's something that can be, everything is either an opportunity to understand. It's like there's this space that it gives you to. I moved to Brussels with 2 suitcases, and at the time I didn't have a smartphone, and I didn't take it for granted. I had a flip phone and that was fine, but it wasn't like I was texting or in touch with family. I was moving by myself, sight unseen, and I didn't choose it to be experiencing hardship. I chose it in a way because there was something magnetizing about that opportunity to find out, but it meant I had to discard comfort. And then the little quirks you learn are like, oh, recycling is compulsive there. It's not a nice to have and being a good person, as much as like, this is the system and you will get fined if you don't wrap things up in the right way with the right little twine and do things. And little things like that were environmental design. And I would often tell myself, like, oh, you can say, oh, this is a brain exercise, because you're learning something completely different, and you're learning. And the quirky things, like the light switches, are different. And the way just the things that you assume, it can be really humbling. And if you come into it with this idea of yourself, then you end up playing a mind game of watching other people watching you and trying to fill in the gaps with what they're thinking about you. And one funny example is, I was teaching in the international school with a bunch of British teachers, and I guess it's sort of a saying. In the morning, they would say, "Are you okay?" And "Are you okay?" in British language means "How are you?" But if you ask someone in the US, are you okay? It kind of means like, oh, you look like you're not okay. Are you okay?
It
And
means what's wrong with you.
Right. And at the time,
Yeah.
let's just say I was not okay. Like I was new, I was moving there, I was feeling awkward. I could have used a like, hey, good morning. But instead, all the are you okays, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of my own mind. So that humility, it lets you. I'm so grateful for these chances, and also that what you're teaching me today that I'm taking away is that, yeah, it's not a binary like cast away all the pillows. Sometimes it's nice to say, hey, I'm not okay. Like, even if the question is not, are you okay for real? Being willing to be like, yeah, as much as I want to put on a facade. I think that's one of my main go-tos in life, is that it's okay. Not it's okay to not be okay, but my in the moment creative impulse is part of my design. Like it's part of my in the moment ability to not script anything and be almost astonished by my own co-presence with somebody else. Like if we're really dance partners in this conversation, I can't be thinking, does Matthew think the best of me? Like, you're going to think what you want to think. And my job here on planet Earth seems to be to show up in the moment, which sounds cliche, but it's the best version of me is going to be messy and brave, or whatever I want it to be. If I'm thinking it, then I'm becoming sentimental, and I just want to be in this moment experiencing life. Yeah.
And that's what I want this to be.
That's why I said yes to this podcast.
Well done.
I watched a few of them and I just thought, this is different and I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is different. Yeah. Matthew's weird.
Quirky? No.
All right. Yeah.
No,
sure.
we need things that are less scripted and more emergent. Like, that's when the juice happens to come. So,
well, great segue.
Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the listeners. No, I sincerely, Matthew, thank you for today and for this experience of just being in the stream with you and having this conversation.
Well, I appreciate you as well. Is it okay to switch gears?
Oh, yeah.
It's time for 7 plus or minus 2 questions.
Okay. Okay, game on.
Game on. So there's no wrong answer to any of these questions.
Okay.
The answer can also be, Matthew, that's a dumb question. I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready. I might be drinking water, but I'm ready.
Great. Yeah. Drink. Yeah. Who did you help recently, and how did it make you feel?
Gosh. It's funny because these stories are about, something where it's. Recently, I helped a friend who I've known for many years, who was one of my first colleagues out of university. They had a real fear about something related to well-being. They opened up to me emotionally. I gave them guidance both as a professional and as a friend, and managed to fuse them together. And, it made me feel trusted, and it made me feel as if I wasn't making the decision, but I was helping them have the best knowledge to make the decision. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Next one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, however you interpret this is fine. What's your least favorite thing about your profession?
My least favorite thing about my profession is that for me, there are, I call it the 3 S's. There's the studio where I need to get the work done. There's the stage where sometimes that's the publication or the presentation or the talk or whatever I'm publishing. And then there's the salon where conversations or research or interaction takes place. And in the midst of it all, as a small company where I'm serving many things, there's still admin. And I think, of course, we can outsource that, but it's not like my best brain state. So I'd say, I don't know, it's not to do with the profession. It has to be there, but I'd say, yeah, just all of the different hats we wear, I guess.
Right. All right, next question is, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen this week that has nothing to do with a screen?
Oh, well, definitely the water. It's been so hot in California, and I went swimming and I could see the skin of the water from underneath and all of those fractals and designs. And I hadn't been swimming in quite a while, so I love that.
Did you go into the ocean or in a lake or river?
Just a pool.
Pool. Okay.
Whatever was available. Yes, it's been intense, this heat. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm looking outside and it's kind of chilly and rainy and gray.
I know, it was so nice, so beautiful, and kind of like a cold plunge. So if people listening can imagine, it wasn't a warm feeling. It was being very hot in the air, very intense, and a freezing cold pool that I submerged completely and did a few laps and flip turns and all that beauty underwater. I loved it. Yeah.
All right. So this one, I'm going to ask, I've been on the fence about it since my inclusion of it. I kind of mark seasons in this with changing up the questions now and again. And I think I'm asking this at this point out of completeness, a compulsion for completeness. Maybe I should investigate that. But anyway, what's a decision you've made? Go ahead.
And don't mind me. I'm just kind of writing. I don't know how to. I'm just going to quickly, if we can edit this out. I want to answer the question, but I don't want the people on the 2:30 meeting to leave the meeting.
Oh shoot, we can be done.
No, I want them. I think if I quickly answer, they will still be there because they're probably not going to.
All right.
I'm hosting
it's
it.
It's 7 plus or minus 2 questions. So screw this question, screw the next question. I'll go to the last question. Because that's for me, this is the question that's stayed throughout, and it's my favorite question. So I'm just going to go to that one.
Okay. And then maybe one.
And imagine it's a year from now. What do you hope to not be carrying anymore?
Wow. Gosh, I mean, it's kind of a what would you want to cast away question. And I have been really trying to downsize. I mentioned that I have lived all over the world. I have objects that are sentimental, and they include clothing, they include things, and they seem to symbolize a part of my identity through the years. And less is more. This is deeper than a what brings you joy. This is more about what actually serves the life design. And I think that's my take on downsizing. It can be creative and colorful, but I'm hoping that at least half of my belongings are just donated, because I think then I'll be able to have a lighter environment, and possibly, who knows where I will physically be in a year. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great question.
All right. Let's stop talking.